Everyone, hope you're ready for our next two chapters of Warriors in Winter. So we're in chapter 5 called Get in Line. So let's see what happens. It says winter sunlight shone on metal helmets and jackets. It shone on broad belts, swords, daggers, spears, and red gold painted shields. So remember, they just found the armory where all the weapons were. No one's in here, said Annie. That's weird, said Jack. Or lucky, said Annie. She grinned at him. Finally, we can do what warriors do. What? You mean try on their armor, said Jack. Annie nodded. Everything's going to be too big, said Jack. Who cares, said Annie. No one's going to see us. Right, said Jack nervously. He really wanted to try on the armor. Actually, it might not be too big. A Roman soldier's had to be at least 5 feet 6 inches. That's only 5 inches taller than me, and about 8 inches taller than you. So if we got it, let's just do it, said Annie. Okay, said Jack, but quick, before anyone shows up. So Jack and Annie hurried through the wide entrance of the armory. They pulled off their capes and dropped them on the ground. Where do we start, said Annie. They looked around at shelves lined with body armor and helmets. In the center of the room were weapons and shields on wooden stands. Upper body armor, said Jack. He crossed to a shelf with metal jackets. The jackets were made of overlapping strips of iron. This one looks pretty small. He lifted the gray metal jacket off the shelf. Whoa, it's heavy. Annie held out her arms, and Jack helped her slide the armor over her tunic. The jacket reached all the way to her knees. Help, she cried, nearly sinking to the floor. Jack laughed. You kind of look like a cartoon character, he said. It's crazy heavy, said Annie. Do you want to take it off, said Jack. Not yet. Put yours on. So Jack chose one of the metal jackets for himself and slipped his arms into it. The metal was freezing cold. Oh man, how can warriors run or fight in this? It weighs a ton. And they march with really heavy packs on their back too. And they carry shields, huge shields. Unbelievable. And here they are in the armory starting to put their armor on. Look how big it is on them. It does look kind of silly. And I bet it was very heavy. Now let's put helmets on, said Jack. He studied the row of helmets. He picked one for himself and lowered it onto his head. Oh man, that's at least another 15 pounds. Let me try one, said Annie. Jack picked a helmet for Annie and lowered it onto her head. Help, she squeaked. I can hardly see or hear. Annie's helmet partially covered her eyes, her ears, her cheeks, and her mouth. Jack laughed. I can hardly see it either, he said, but I feel braver wearing this stuff, don't you? No, said Annie. I'm dying in here. Her voice was muffled. Okay, let's take everything off, said Jack. Suddenly, voices and the sound of running feet came from outside. Full armor, no packs, a man shouted. The Emperor's parade begins at high noon. Oh, yikes, said Annie. Let's get out of their way, said Jack in a panic. He pulled Annie into the shadows. Warriors poured into the armory. Jack recognized the cooks and craftsmen among the others. Mars the victor, Annie said. Her voice was muffled inside her quiet helmet. Quiet, said Jack. Belts, helmets, shields, someone bellowed. A stocky centurion stood at the entrance of the armory. Oh no, thought Jack, another centurion. Double time, the man roared. The warriors quickly moved down the shelves, gathering their jackets, their helmets, and their military belts. Everyone in line, now, the centurion shouted. The warriors grabbed weapons and shields, and the armory was filled with loud voices and clanking metal. We've got to get out of here, said Jack to Annie. We can take everything off outside. Let's go. I can't even see you, Annie said. I'll lead you, said Jack. Jack took Annie's hand, and stumbling awkwardly into their heavy armor, they moved with the warriors toward the entrance. Line up, the centurion bellowed. Single file. The warriors almost knocked Jack and Annie over as they spilled out into the bright sunlight. And chapter 6 is called Deserters. Do you think that Jack and Annie are going to be able to get away, or are they going to be forced to go with the other warriors? Let's see. Jack pulled Annie to the side of the armory. Let's stay here until they're gone, he said. Annie nodded. The warriors were joining a parade line. The line stretched all the way to the main road. Prepare to march, the centurion shouted. A horn sounded, and the warriors started jogging down the path. Come on, let's take this stuff off, said Jack, before we get caught. Jack yanked off his helmet and unlaced his metal jacket and pulled it off. Woo, he said. He finally felt light enough to float through the air. Help, said Annie. Her helmet was off, but she was struggling to get out of her metal jacket. Hold on, said Jack. He helped Annie unlace the jacket and take it off. There, great, said Annie. Now we better. Deserter! Someone shouted. Jack and Annie whirled around. In the distance, a centurion was pointing to them. "Oh no, he must think we're soldiers trying to escape from the Legion," said Jack. "Deserters, get them!" I want to stop right there for a minute. Do you know what a deserter is? So a deserter is, they would call that to someone who was in an army or something if they were fighting on the battlefield and then they decided to run away, leaving all of their teammate or their squad there, and they were running away and not helping their team anymore. So they think Jack and Annie that they're actual warriors, and that they don't want to go to this parade, that they're deserting and leaving their team behind. So, deserters, the centurion was pointing at them and shouting again. It's time to go, said Jack. Run, said Annie. She and Jack ran in the opposite direction of the centurion and the parade line. They zigzagged between barracks until they came to the main road. At the far end of the road, warriors were lining up at the back gate. "The front gate," called Jack. They charged up the main road, heading for the entrance of the camp. "Halt!" Jack looked back. Several horsemen were riding toward them. "Halt!" the lead horseman shouted again. "Keep going!" Jack shouted to Annie. "Double time!" Jack and Annie ran as fast as they could. An arrow whizzed past them. Uh-oh, I knew they were going to get into trouble. "Stop!" Jack shouted to Annie. "Just stop. We have to explain," said Jack. "Turn around. Put your hands up. Let's explain to them." Holding up their hands, Jack and Annie turned to face the horseman. The leader was a centurion, and he wore a crested helmet and a red cape. "Mars the victor!" Jack yelled. "We're visiting scholars under the Imperial Guard. We come in peace." "Pax!" Annie shouted. "Pax!" The warriors on horseback circled them, and Jack felt very small. So here's all the warriors. There's Jack and Annie with their hands up. And I wonder if they're going to believe them or if they think they're actual deserters. The centurion leaned forward. "What tribe are you from?" he barked. "Frog Creek," Jack blurted out. "Frog Creek? There is no such tribe." "Perhaps they came across the river from the north," said another warrior. "They are very small." "Did you cross the Danube?" the centurion asked. Actually, I don't know where Frog Creek is exactly in relation to your camp, but possibly, who told you the secret word of the day?" the centurion demanded. "A rider on a black horse." "Where did you see him?" "Outside the camp. He was alone." "Our warriors do not ride alone outside the camp. What did he tell you?" "He told us to make notes about the Roman legion, and that's what we've been doing all day, taking notes." "So a rider on a black horse gave you our secret daily password?" the centurion said. "Yes, sir," said Jack. "And he told you to write about our camp?" said the centurion. "Yes," said Jack. "And you don't know his name?" the centurion said. "He didn't tell us his name, but he must be here somewhere. He rode into the camp." "He is here? He rode into our camp?" The centurion turned to the other horseman. "An enemy spy is in our walls," he roared. "No, he's not an enemy," said Annie. "He's not a spy." The horsemen just ignored her, and they all began yelling at once. "He is here! He rode into our camp. It's an enemy spy inside our walls." "We must stop the parade," the centurion roared. The horsemen stared at their leader. "Zeno, alert Emperor Aurelius." One of the horsemen nodded and galloped off. "We will take these prisoners to the royal tent," said the centurion, "and the emperor will decide their fate." Uh-oh, dun, dun, dun. That takes us to chapter 7, Lord Emperor Aurelius. So now Jack and Annie are going to be taken to the emperor, and it said the emperor will decide their fate. That means the emperor is going to decide what to do with them. I hope they stay safe. Now I'm feeling a little nervous. This book didn't have anything happening until now. So tune in tomorrow and let's find out what happens. Bye, friends. Hope you have a good day.